Resident Evil 4 was the title that reinvented the Resident Evil series completely. Some people loved it, some people hated, some couldn't care either way. I was one of those people. I'm Sexy Jesus, and this is why I love
Resident Evil 4.
When this game was released, I remember being very disappointed because it was a GameCube exclusive. Back in the day, I was a PlayStation kid, so didn't really have access to a GameCube. And I'm pretty sure it was exclusive to GameCube for like a year, so I had quite a bit of time of waiting. I remember watching the game on X-Play, just completely hyped about it, and still wondering like, how am I ever going to play this game? That is till one faithful day when I was just walking through Walmart, and there it was, just on the shelf, the blue cover art, and finally on PlayStation 2. Back then it was pretty hard to get gaming news, so I had to depend on like shopping ads and just look on the shelf and see if a new game is out. I remember feeling really awkward playing the game because obviously the camera angle is completely different. It's no longer fixed camera angle. The camera is right behind you, over the shoulder. That was like the first over-the-shoulder game that I played. That probably a lot of people played, honestly. So it took some time to get used to that. And the fact that there's no reticle, you're just using the laser sight on the gun, and that felt very odd. Even Leon felt pretty odd. Like, he's pretty different compared to RE2. In this, he's a government agent. His hair's blonde now for whatever reason. His voice is different. It took some time getting used to the new version of Leon. I know there is a lot of people that dislike this game because this is when Resident Evil started to go really action-y. Though if you pay attention, they've done that throughout the games. Every game, it becomes more and more action-y, even before this one. I personally feel like the scariest this game will ever be is when you first play it, because at that time, even though you have access to karate kicks and all that, you don't know the controls well. You don't know how to properly kill enemies, so you're going to be wasting bullets a lot. Where once you've actually played through the game, you've learned how to properly take down a villager. You only really need one bullet per villager if you do it right. Once you fully understand the game, it's not scary at all. But that first time, it's pretty intense. I remember starting out and just running out of ammo a lot because I would just waste like half my clip into their body and not like aim for the head like you're supposed to. You're supposed to get those stuns, knock them down, use the knife. Yes, the knife is very important in this one. I didn't really understand that till, I don't know, long into my first playthrough. So let me tell you, once I got to that first village section where you have to survive and you have the chainsaw dude running around, that was a nightmare. That took me quite a while to get past. In all honesty, that was probably the hardest part of the game. I feel like story-wise, this one is very isolated compared to the other ones. Like, it's not really linked to any other Resident Evil that well. It's a completely new story, there's no virus, it's a parasite. You're in like this old like farm town village. Then you're in this extravagant fancy castle, and then you're in the military base, which is sort of my least favorite out of the locations in this game. The military base is pretty kind of bland to me. And that's when the game's really actiony. You just have machine guns and stuff. It's horror's completely gone at that point. A big part of the game is having Ashley, the president's daughter, who you went to go save in the first place. She'll be with you through a good portion of the game, so you have to constantly manage her health. So not only are you looking out for you, you're also looking out for an NPC who's completely useless. A lot of people hate Ashley. I don't think even though she's useless, I don't think she's like too annoying to have with you. Just try to tell her to stop and just leave her behind before you start getting into fights and stuff. It's a little bit easier. Sitting and doing these videos, I have to sort of run the game through my head to come up with parts to talk about. Doing this made me realize that at the one point when you get Ashley, the freaking leader of the cult tells him that you have parasites in you. Why would he do that? What logic does he have to do that? He could just let you escape and spread the parasite. I think that they could do that. Why would he even say that? I mean, I guess Louise would eventually tells him. He would know, I guess, but the leader's kind of an idiot. If you happen to manage an NPC, that already sets it aside from other Resident Evils, but the biggest thing that sets this aside is definitely the combat. I don't care what kind of argument you're gonna come up with. Like, oh, the game's not scary. Okay, whatever. We could give that to you, but the combat's great. It is so fun. When you have like a swarm of enemies coming up on you, you headshot the one, which stuns him. You run up, do the kick, and it hits all of them, knocks them out, and gives you an opening to run if you want to run. You can treat this as other Resident Evils where you just run to the next spot you need to go without actually having to fight anything, except for the parts where you're forced to fight, of course. But if you actually sit and fight and you know how to save your bullets and use the knife and everything, there's a pretty good chance the villagers are gonna drop ammo, or at the very least some money. So it's actually better to just to fight everything. But if you're not very good at saving ammo, just do your best to try to navigate around everything. So with Ashley being with you, the combat, and just Leon just being a different version of Leon, just to top that all off, there's a merchant.
Got something that might interest you.
Yeah, there's a shop ran by one of the best characters in the series. Don't fight me on that. The best characters in the series is freaking Jill, Leon, and Merchant, alright? Don't fight me. This dude, there's no real story to him. It looks like he's infected, but it just doesn't affect him. He's a god, I suppose, just traveling the world selling firearms to random citizens, I guess.
What are you buying? What are you selling?
That is sort of the fun of this game, because you can really change the way you play because of the different guns you can get. Do you buy the machine gun? Do you buy the sniper rifle? Or maybe you find the sniper rifle. I can't quite remember. I personally always end up getting the handgun that holds the most ammo, because if I'm using a handgun against an enemy, it's usually because I can stun them. So that's what I focus on with the handgun. I'm not worried about the damage. Now when it comes to the shotgun, on the other hand, putting all my points into damage right off the bat. You can also buy things strategically, like if you know there's a big boss battle coming up, you could just buy the rocket launcher and just one-shot it. The boss fights in this game are actually really fun. Well, except Del Lago. Del Lago, you're using a harpoon and you're stuck in the boat the whole time, but other than that, which by the way, Del Lago was extremely difficult my first playthrough. He was... I have nightmares of him. You have El Gigante, which, depending on your choice in the beginning of the game, will drastically change the difficulty of this fight. And if you didn't save the dog, you are a terrible, terrible person. You have the Chief, which is a pretty scary fight. I'll give it that. Freaking fast dude in sewer who is extremely hard. I always just use the rocket launcher on him. Got screwed. Just make sure you freeze him first, otherwise he'll dodge it. There's some really good boss fights. Replaying this game nowadays for me is pretty interesting because I've been studying Spanish the past few years, so actually knowing what the villagers are saying to me is kind of changes the experience of it. I know I keep seeing villagers, there's more than villagers, but that's just what's stuck in my head. The enemies. Herbs are a little bit different now. We don't have blue herbs for poisons, we have yellow herbs to increase our max health. I'll tell you this much, Ashley never gets any of them from me. Once I max out my health, I'll give it to her, but until then, no. I find it difficult to really explain why I love this game because I don't really have a good story with it, other than the waiting for it. I don't have an actual like heartwarming story. It's just the game's really good. Puzzles are trash. I'll say that much. The puzzles in this game are complete trash. They're really easy. One puzzle is literally just 1, 2, 3, 4. There are moments where you have to like send Ashley to go like do something you can't do, like or crank a lever while enemies are attacking, so you have to snipe enemies off of Ashley while she's doing stuff. That's some of the most annoying parts in the game. The water room, yeah, definitely the water room. The water room is probably one of the worst rooms in the game. A lot of times when I say my favorite game, I usually mean favorite series. Let me tell you, between RE4 and RE2, they've always went up and down between which one is my favorite. But I eventually settled on RE4 being just a notch higher, just because I've played much more than RE2. Both incredibly good games that I can go back to multiple times, but I think RE4 just does it a little bit better. I never really get bored with this game. And in fact, I think a lot of people can agree that you can just keep coming back to this game. It's that fun. Doing a new game plus in this is one of the most satisfying things also. You just start the new game with all your weapons and stuff and just obliterate everything. That's great. You get like Leon's RE2 outfit, give him like the Tommy gun, just go nuts. It's just a fun time. Doing the shooting range, trying to get all the bobbleheads. I think that might be like the first like mini game or like extra like little side thing to do in Resident Evil. I personally can't think of anything in the other games besides maybe like the Brad Vickers zombie Easter egg. Just little things like that. I can't think of like an actual like mini game. So future Sexy Jesus is here to say that I forgot to mention Mercenaries mode. Running around on a time limit trying to get combos is one of the most addicting things you can do in these games, and the RE4 version is probably the best, to be honest. Especially when you unlock a bunch of the secret characters and try them out. It's pretty fun. Also, with Ada being back, you get to do all of her secret missions and stuff. So yeah, this game actually has quite a bit of extra content besides the main game for you to do. I think that's about all I forgot, so back to the video. Which, of course, I guess a survival horror game shouldn't have a minigame. It ain't time for fun and games. But I suppose that's another reason why I've always been drawn to this one just a little bit more, because playing the other games is stressful. And the other ones is really easy to get grabbed and get hurt. This one, you can run past enemies pretty easily for the most part. So really, you just have to find an open area and kite them around. Just watch out for the random sickles get thrown at you. You should be fine. Even though I do lack a actual good story as to why I love this game, when I think about how addictive and fun the combat is, how the story in this one is a little bit more interesting than the others. Like the first three, it's always just, well, well, you're mostly just surviving, and then, here's bad stuff in a lab, and then boom, everything blows up. This one, you have the cult stuff, and it makes you wonder like what their plans are and everything, even though it's mostly just taking over the world. You kind of figure that out real quick. Still fun enough. The characters are at least a bit more interesting this time around, especially like Salazar. Like, why are you fighting against it like a zombie Napoleon? We have no idea. We just go with it. The fact that I can just come back to this game over and over again and it's still fun. I can't really ask much more from a video game. Even if you're not like a Resident Evil fan, like you've never touched the series, and you're not even a big fan of like survival horror, play it. At least it sort of tries to still be horror, unlike like 5 and 6, but it's not like stressful as like an actual full-on survival horror game. So yeah, that's about all I have to say. It's just a really good game. There's not much more that needs to be said beyond that. I think my next video, I'll talk about Final Fantasy. Well, actually, beforehand, we'll probably do the Kingdom Hearts video I talked about in my other Kingdom Hearts video. Just gonna keep doing this series, just come up with different games and talk about it. As I go down the line, there will be more interesting stories. It's just, I had to make a video on this one. It's like my second favorite game. But I don't have a ultra interesting story. It's just good. Play it. So I'll end it here. Till next video, guys. I'll see you. Yeah.